Context: my mom, who was 50 at the time, died a year ago due to various health issues. We had her cremated, and her urn is on our mantel above the fireplace. So my new boyfriend, 23 years old, of 3 months, came over to my house for the first time to spend the night. To get to my bedroom, you have to walk through the living room, which has the mantel. As we passed by it, I said, "Say hi to my mom," by force of habit, since it's a thing with my friends. When they come over, they either find my mom to say hi, or I go, "Say hi to my mom." That didn't stop after she died, it just stuck, and they would go, "Hey, OP's mom." So I said that to him, and he stops walking and looks around. We're completely home alone, and the living room doesn't have the lights on, so he doesn't see her urn immediately. I laughed and pointed to the urn and just started walking again, but he stops me and looks at me with a half-concerned, half-annoyed expression. I asked what's wrong, and he annoyedly asks, "Why would you tell me to say hi to her? Why wouldn't you tell me she's dead before this?" And I was puzzled. The topic of her death never came up in the last few months of us dating. Plus, we only knew each other for a few months before dating and never got super close. So I didn't think of mentioning it, and I didn't think it was a big deal, so I told him that. He said I'm a jerk for springing my mom's death on him, and then laughing about it. I only chuckled because I thought it was silly he actually looked around for her. I wasn't laughing at her death. I don't know if I'm the jerk, but maybe it wasn't the best way to tell him about her death. But if the lights were on, he absolutely would have seen the urn, as it's decorated and has fairy lights that we turn on at night. So I think since he was supposed to spend the night, he would have seen it when he got up for water or something. He didn't end up spending the night and left shortly after. This was yesterday, and he texted me good morning today, but hasn't texted otherwise. Am I the idiot? Update. Jesus Christ. This has gotten way more attention than I thought it would. Let me clarify a few things. Also, there's a further update on my page. Another clarification, since everyone is assuming I invited him over for intimacy. The spend the night request was not sexually based. I'm home alone for 2 days due to other familial reasons, and I'm a generally anxious guy, so I wanted someone home with me. And my friends are out of town for the holidays, so I invited my boyfriend over since he doesn't celebrate Christmas and had no plans. 1. I am not expecting him or anyone else who comes into my house to say hi to her. Even my own siblings don't do this. It's literally just something between me and my friends. 2. When I said I laughed because I thought it was silly, he looked for her. I didn't mean I thought it was funny. I guess my wording was just off. I thought since we were about 4 feet from the urn, he'd see it in his peripheral view. And another thing is, people think I was mad about his reaction. I wasn't, I was just confused. 3. FYI, I'm a guy. I have no idea why everyone thinks I'm a girl, despite the fact that I've had male 20 in the first few lines of the post since I posted it last night. And also, being gay has nothing to do with this. In our area, nearly everyone is accepting of queer plus individuals, so it's assumed our parents are as well. So therefore, the topic of parents' family accepting hasn't come up. I've yet to meet his parents as well. 4. When I say certain topics never come up, I mean it. I'm sure the other comment I made is buried by now, but my mom was the first death I've ever experienced in my family. It sounds strange, I know. My family isn't big, and really, the only people who have died did so when I was younger than 5, so it's not in my memory. I don't really talk about my family life all that much to anyone, not because I'm hiding it, I just rather focus on other topics. Even one of my closest friends didn't know about my mom remarrying until I posted about getting a suit for it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot. That would feel weird. Stow, it's not like he had a relationship with her. If you wanted to make him part of the ritual, you needed to tell him she is dead before inviting him over. Also, let him know that you and your friends still talk to her. Based on his reaction to that, you could ask if he wants to meet her. Not everyone talks to dead loved ones, so asking him to talk to a dead stranger assumed a lot. Comment 2. No idiots here. There's nothing wrong with having a fun little tradition where you say hi to your mom, but expecting every newcomer to the household to also do it is a little strange. I personally wouldn't. I would apologize for blindsiding him and explain that it's a bit of a family thing and you don't expect him to do it. Unless you do expect him to do it, then I'd reevaluate my thought. No idiots here rating. Now for the update. Hey everyone, back with an update on the situation with my boyfriend and the whole urn incident. It's been a tense 3 days, and I've got some news that's going to knock your socks off. So, buckle up. First off, let me fill you in on some history that I didn't mention before. My mom, before she passed, had this thing about always wanting to make sure I was with someone who truly cared for me. She'd say, "Don't bring anyone home unless they're ready to be part of the family." It was her way of making sure I didn't rush into relationships. I guess that's why I never thought to bring up her passing to my boyfriend. I was waiting for the right moment, for when it felt like he was really part of the family. Now, onto the juicy stuff. After my boyfriend left that night, I was feeling pretty down. I mean, I get it. It was a shock for him, but I thought maybe he'd understand once he had some time to process. The next day, he came over to talk. He apologized for overreacting and admitted he was just caught off guard. We had a heart-to-heart, and I told him about my mom's little rule. He seemed to really get it, and we ended up having a really nice evening together. It felt like we were finally getting past the awkwardness. But here's where things take a turn. The following day, I was at his place, and I stumbled upon a letter while I was looking for a pen. It was addressed to him from his ex, and it was pretty clear from the contents that they'd been in touch recently. Like, really in touch, if you catch my drift. I was floored. I mean, here I was, feeling guilty about not sharing enough, and he's got this whole secret correspondence going on. I confronted him about it, and he tried to brush it off as nothing, but I wasn't buying it. We got into a huge fight, and I ended up storming out. I was so mad, I could barely see straight. But after I cooled down, I started to think about everything. My mom's words echoed in my head, and I realized that maybe this was a sign. Maybe he wasn't ready to be part of the family after all. So, I decided to give him some space to figure out what he really wanted. I went home and spent the night just looking at the urn on the mantel, thinking about my mom and what she would say. It was a tough night, not gonna lie. The next day, he showed up at my door with this look on his face that I couldn't quite read. He told me he'd ended things with his ex for good and that he wanted to be with me. He said he was sorry for keeping it from me and that he wanted to be transparent from now on. I was torn, you know? Part of me was happy he was making an effort, but the other part was still hurt by the betrayal. We decided to take things slow and try to rebuild the trust that was lost. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's worth a shot. I mean, everyone makes mistakes, right? And if he's willing to work on things, then I think I owe it to both of us to try. But here's the bittersweet part. Later that day, I was cleaning around the living room and I found an old photo album my mom had put together. It was full of pictures of her and me, and on the last page, there was a note she'd written. It said, "Always remember, love is about forgiveness and second chances. Don't be afraid to give them, but never settle for less than you deserve." It hit me hard. I realized that maybe this whole mess was a test to see if my boyfriend was the kind of person who could own up to his mistakes and work to fix them. And a test for me to see if I could forgive and give that second chance my mom talked about. My sister's toxic entitlement over a cruise ticket ends when I refuse to pay. She plays the victim, but the truth hits hard and... My 19-year-old female grandparents are celebrating 50 years of marriage this year and have invited the whole family to go with them on a cruise for a family reunion. That means all 6 of their children and their extended family, roughly 125 people, are going on a week-long vacation in March. I adore my grandparents, but have a complicated relationship with my parents. In short, they're incredibly emotionally immature and care entirely too much about how they appear to others, and not enough about how we as a family are functioning. Because of this, one of my older sisters, Brittany, 20-year-old female, has fallen into addiction. Though I've tried my best to help her, without the support of my parents, there's very little I can actually do. They told me it was my responsibility to take care of her. So, when she lost everything after her DUI, my senior year in high school, I completely rearranged my life to cater to her. I stayed home my first year of college and took her to and from all of her appointments, took her to work and school, etc. I sacrificed my life so that it looked like our family was functioning, even though we weren't. Unfortunately, with addiction, there's always the chance of relapse, and my sister relapsed hard. She overdosed, and I found her and had to rush her to the hospital. Still, my parents refused reasonable help. So, I stopped doing everything and decided to go to the school of my dreams and live my own life. After a week of having to actually parent, I got the apology call and the request to support her again. I denied them and have 100% been independent since. Which brings us back to the cruise. Last week, my parents called to inform me that I'm expected to go on this cruise and pay for everything myself. Which is fine. I'm an adult. However, I was not expecting to pay for Brittany. My parents said, without reliable transportation, she's been unable to maintain a steady income, and it's my fault for moving away. So it's reasonable for me to pay for her and have her pay me back. I told them no, and asked why they couldn't. Turns out, in addition to paying for my younger sister Callie, 16-year-old female, they've also decided to pay for my nieces, 2-year-old female, 3-year-old female, 5-year-old female, and 2 stepsisters, 28-year-old female, 24-year-old female. I doubled down. I'm paying for my own school and don't want to dip into my savings when I know I won't get paid back. But now I'm getting non-stop hate messages from the rest of the family. I don't think I'm being unreasonable, but with my grandparents calling me begging me to go on the cruise and to just go ahead and pay for my sister, I'm wavering. Am I the idiot if I still refuse? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Either your parents pay for their adult child or your grandparents pay for their adult granddaughter. End of story. ETA. There are approximately 125 people going on this cruise. Gammy and Gampy can ask those people to split the burden of your sister's fare if they are so insistent on having everyone on board. I cannot believe that some people have the audacity to want to celebrate their anniversary with a family cruise, invite 100+ people to go, but are presumably unwilling to pay for anyone to go on said cruise. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I wouldn't even go on the cruise. I would find a time that works for me and my grandparents and go spend a week with them. Just them and me. That way I could celebrate them, spend time with them, and enjoy them without all that other nonsense going on. Do not pay for your sister. If you do, they will all realize their tactics work, and they will use these tactics for the rest of your life to control you. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a chaotic week, and I've got some updates for you. So after I refused to pay for Brittany's cruise ticket, things went from bad to worse. My parents have been relentless, trying to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. They've been bringing up how I used to take care of Brittany and how I owe it to the family to keep up appearances. It's like they've forgotten that I'm not their backup plan anymore. But here's the kicker. My aunt, who's always been the family gossip, let slip that my parents had actually set aside money for Brittany's ticket. They were planning to use it as a surprise for her to show how much they support her recovery. When I confronted them about it, they denied everything and said my aunt was stirring up drama. But I trust my aunt, and it just shows how manipulative my parents can be. Meanwhile, Brittany's been reaching out to me. She's been sober since her last relapse, and she's trying to make amends. She apologized for the burden she put on me and said she understands why I can't pay for her. It's been a whirlwind with her, but I'm cautiously optimistic that she's turning a corner. The family drama doesn't stop there, though. My younger sister Callie has been caught in the middle of all this. She's been feeling neglected because my parents have been so focused on Brittany and the cruise. She told me she's been saving up from her part-time job to pay for her own ticket because she didn't want to be a financial burden. I was so proud of her for taking responsibility, but also heartbroken that she felt she had to do that. And just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my 2 stepsisters got involved. They've been on my parents' side from the start, saying I should just pay for Brittany to keep the peace. But then, I found out that they haven't even paid for their own tickets yet. They're expecting my parents to cover them last minute, which is probably why my parents are pressuring me so much. The family group chat has been blowing up with everyone taking sides. Some of my cousins are supporting me, saying I shouldn't have to pay for Brittany. Others are saying I'm being selfish and ruining the family reunion. It's been non-stop drama, and I'm exhausted. But here's the jaw-dropping moment. During a heated phone call, my mom let it slip that they were planning to use the money they saved for Brittany's ticket to upgrade their own cabin to a luxury suite. They thought no one would find out, but now the whole family knows. It's caused a huge rift, and even my grandparents are disappointed in them. So, with all this going on, I've been trying to figure out what to do. I've been working extra shifts at my job to save up for the cruise, and I'm determined to go and enjoy it with my grandparents. They mean the world to me, and I don't want to miss out on celebrating their 50 years together. As for Brittany, she's been trying to find ways to pay for her own ticket. She's been selling some of her things and looking for extra work. It's a big step for her, and I'm quietly supporting her efforts. The unresolved conflict is still there, though. My parents are now on the defensive, trying to smooth things over with the family. They're still expecting me to cave and pay for Brittany, but I'm standing my ground. I've told them that if they want her there, they'll have to use the money they were going to spend on their suite. With the cruise just around the corner, tensions are high. I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but I'm hoping we can all find a way to come together for my grandparents' sake. They don't deserve their celebration to be overshadowed by all this drama. Dad's girlfriend parade never ends, so I confront him and he explodes. His new fiancée thinks she's different, but the engagement party reveals all. Me, 31-year-old female, and my husband, 33-year-old male, have 2 kids, 5-year-old male and 1-year-old female. My father, 64-year-old male, is a serial cheater. For the last 20 years, most of his relationships have ended due to that. He goes through girlfriends like babies go through diapers. While I'm not comfortable with that, my opinion doesn't matter. The women he dates are free to make their own choices. However, I do have 2 problems with this. The first is that the older my father gets, the less his relationships last. Since my son was born, he's introduced us to 8 different girlfriends, their time together lasting anywhere from 3 months to a year. The second problem is that my dad expects my kids to get attached to whatever woman he's dating. He invites them to go out with us, volunteers them as babysitters, and talks them up to my son, usually to get him to want to spend time with them. For the first few years of his life, my son would spend weeks meeting my father's girlfriends and memorizing their features, only for them to vanish from his life a couple months later. Though it saddens me, he's gotten used to it. We're spending the holidays with our extended family, and my dad brought along his current girlfriend, Patty, 36-year-old female. They've been together for 2 months, and my kids met her a week ago. Over this week, Patty has expressed her desire to get close to my kids. Both she and my dad have been trying to get my son to meet her properly. However, my father's routine isn't working this time. My son declines her invitations to play, doesn't interact with her much, and hasn't seemingly made any effort to talk to her. He's not impolite, he just doesn't show any interest in her. My daughter is a bit shy and doesn't seem to want to be around Patty either. After my son didn't acknowledge her at all during Christmas Eve, my father decided to confront me about it. He said he was disappointed in me, as Patty loves my kids, and I'm not making any efforts to get them to love her back. It took me a while, but I lost my patience. I told him, they've known her for a week, she's almost their mom's age, and they'll probably never see her again after a couple months. Why should they need to love your girlfriend? My father was pissed. He's accusing me of raising my kids to be selfish, impolite brats. We had a short fight about it, and he barely spoke to me during Christmas. He also texted me that Patty was upset, so I can only assume he told her. My mom, as well as my aunt and cousins, think I did the right thing, and that he needed to hear it. My younger sister thinks I was too harsh, and that I should at least try to get my kids to meet Patty properly. I have nothing against Patty, but I don't want to force my kids to have a relationship with her. Am I the idiot? Edit. I'm not sure if Patty knows about my dad's history of cheating, and I say they've been together for 2 months because that's when his last girlfriend broke up with him. I'm pretty sure he was seeing Patty before that. Also, none of his girlfriends have ever actually babysat my kids. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I am weirded out that a 36-year-old woman wants to play grandma with her boyfriend of 2 months' grandkids. I would advise you not to push your children to get close to her. The fact that this relationship is not likely to last long is but one of several reasons I'd keep my distance. Basic civility is required, but no more than that. Dad overstepped with you, and he experienced the predictable consequences. If he doesn't want to hear some hard truths, he shouldn't push for a relationship dynamic he hasn't earned. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your kids only need to be polite and respectful, as they should with any adult. They don't need to play with every woman that Grandpa brings home or get close to them. If she sticks around, she can get to know them slowly. And your father is ridiculous to say she loves your kids that she met a week ago. I am glad you put your foot down about this nonsense. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update. So, after the Christmas blowout with my dad, things cooled down a bit, or so I thought. But boy, was I in for a surprise. First off, let me give you a bit of history about my dad's dating life. It's been a revolving door of women, and it's not just the cheating that's the problem. He's got this charm that makes you believe he's changed every time he introduces a new girlfriend. But history has shown us that's never the case. Now, Back to the present. After the holidays, my dad and Patty stuck around for a bit longer than expected. Patty was trying really hard to bond with my kids, bringing gifts and trying to play with them. My son, who's seen this pattern too many times, wasn't having any of it. My daughter, still being a baby, was indifferent as usual. Then, out of nowhere, my dad announced that he and Patty were getting married. Everyone was shocked, especially since they'd only been official for 2 months. My mom, who's been through the ringer with my dad's antics, just rolled her eyes. My sister, who always tries to see the best in him, was cautiously optimistic. But here's the jaw-dropping part. Patty was pregnant. That's right, my dad was going to be a father again at 64. This news sent ripples through the family. My kids were going to have an aunt or uncle who was younger than them. It was a lot to process. My dad, in his typical fashion, expected everyone to be over the moon. He wanted to throw a big engagement party and have my kids be part of the celebration. I was torn. On one hand, I didn't want to support this circus. On the other, I didn't want to be the one who caused a family rift. So, we went to the party. It was as awkward as you'd imagine. Patty was glowing, talking about baby names and nursery themes. My dad was beaming, acting like the proud soon-to-be father. And there I was, trying to keep my kids from feeling too overwhelmed by all the attention they were getting as the big brother and big sister. The party took a turn when my dad's ex-girlfriend showed up. Yeah, the one before Patty. She was furious, claiming that my dad had promised her they would get back together. The confrontation was intense. Voices were raised, and secrets were spilled. It turns out my dad had been seeing Patty while still with his ex. The whole room was in shock. My son, bless his heart, chose that moment to ask loudly why Grandpa was always making new girlfriends. The room went silent. My dad tried to laugh it off, but the damage was done. Patty, who apparently had no idea about my dad's history, was devastated. In the aftermath, my dad tried to do damage control. He told Patty that my son was just confused and didn't understand adult relationships. Patty, still reeling from the revelation, wasn't sure what to believe. A few days later, my dad sat me down for a talk. He accused me of turning my son against him and Patty. I tried to explain that my son was just being a kid and saying what he observed. But my dad wasn't having it. He said I was responsible for Patty's hurt feelings and that I needed to fix it. I was at a loss. I didn't want to lie to my son or force him to accept a situation that even I wasn't comfortable with. So I decided to have a heart-to-heart with Patty. I explained that my son's comment wasn't meant to hurt her, but it was a reflection of the instability he's seen in his grandpa's relationships. Patty was more understanding than I expected. She admitted that she was starting to see the pattern too, and was having second thoughts about the wedding. She thanked me for being honest, and said she needed some time to think about everything. So here we are now. My dad is trying to patch things up with Patty, who's still deciding what to do. My kids are just happy to be out of the spotlight for a while. And me? I'm just trying to navigate this family drama without losing my mind. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.